Hello, everybody. Welcome back into the LFC transfer room. I'm Jack, delighted to be joined by Rigo, Drew, and Anthony in the wake of Liverpool's 2-1 defeat to Leeds in the Premier League at Anfield. The Virgil van Dijk record is over. Our optimism for the Premier League season is over. And we're kind of treating this as a big therapy session for all of us. Rigo, I'll go to you first, man. How are you kind of processing things in like the 10, 15 minutes since that devastating result? It was a sad one, to be sure.
Definitely. It just feel horrible. Virgil streak, as you mentioned, is over. 70 games gone, and it felt like we were knocking, but Meslier, kept us out, and we just didn't capitalize on the chances that we had, and we have nothing but ourselves to kind of look at. It's just a game of finishing off the chances, and Leeds capitalized on our mistakes, and then what I felt was a bad substitution on Klopp's part, bringing on Milner and just, slowing that whole right side up kind of left us exposed, and we were meant to pay for it there.
Anthony, I'll toss it to you before we kind of dig into things, just your overall feelings in this moment.
I'm not sure quite how to feel in this moment. It's like after 5 years, Van Dijk's record's just gone like that. But I don't know. It just feels like shit, to be honest. Like I'm not sure if we'll have to turn on the channel. My bad if we can't. But it is coming. Or we've seen it all season, man. We've been really poor against Newcastle. We're lucky to get 3 points at Anfield, and performances just have dropped. I think the only match I can remember us playing well at Anfield this season was, besides Bournemouth, was against Man City. And apart from that, we've just been a shambles. And yeah, I think Leeds they deserve the 3 points today. We look like scoring on one or two occasions, and apart from that, I thought we were a rubbish all match. So well done to Leeds, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, look, Drew, maybe the American in us should be happy that maybe Jesse will get a few extra weeks off of the back of this result. But I guess your takeaways from that match, Drew.
It's a tough one. Just honestly, we're just at a really, really, really low point, and World Cup break needs to come, and I guess we just need to limp across the line at this point. I honestly think that's the takeaways from this match. There's not much else going fresh or positive in my mind at the moment. I'm sure I'm still in shock, but maybe I'll have thoughts tomorrow or get the optimism back. I'm not totally defeated, but it's definitely lick our wounds and try to get over the line at this point.
I mean, you look ahead on Liverpool's schedule, right? So you have Napoli in a match that, I mean, it's about a 1-2 spot in the Champions League in terms of the group stage, but in terms of qualification, that's been wrapped up. Then Tottenham at I almost said White Hart Lane. What's their new stadium called? I don't. My mind is a barren wasteland right now.
Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Is it that simple? Okay.
I think so.
The marketing team was thoroughly creative with that one. That match follows that up, and then Derby in the EFL Cup third round. I don't know. Anthony, I'll just toss it to you. What I guess what could change, in the next before the World Cup? Because I think that's the most tangible, close thing. Can anything change before the World Cup, or is this just a team that needs fundamental overhaul?
I'm just not sure. It feels like nobody knows what's wrong because at least that season when Van Dijk got injured, like 2021, at least there was an excuse. Like everyone was injured, all our centre backs were. But now it's like, what the hell's the issue? Maybe it's just everyone's been running to the ground. And I'm seeing the comments here. Kate is a waste. Kate is this. Kate is not even the topic. He's not even played this season. So, we need those players back, man. We need Kate back. I know as much as I don't rate Oxlade-Chamberlain, I think he has to play more often. And like Rigo was saying, or Drew, I think, said Klopp's decision making, the substitution to bring Milner on. Why are you doing that? He needs to stop with this sort of sentiment towards these players and just let the world class players start and let them carry on playing throughout the whole 90 minutes. Why was Gomez given a full 90 minutes? He should have been taken off at half time. You got Canate on the bench, bring him on, and that would have solved a few things as well. And we're just conceding too many sloppy goals. And like Carragher was saying on commentary, it's too easy to play against. So and it fixed up in the defense department because we were saying all season, the midfield's rubbish, but the defense looks just as bad as well, to be honest with you. So I feel like I don't know. The league is 100% done, and not even 100%, 100 million% done. But I think we need to focus on trying our best to get top four and hopefully, fix up for the Champions League.
Rigo, you kind of grimaced with the Gomez at halftime. I'm just interested in your takeaway.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have taken. I mean, obviously, he had the brain fart of all farts there, trying to pass it back to Allison there. I kind of felt, in a way, Virgil could have done a little better, at least getting a hand on Rodrigo, preventing him from scoring that or trying to get to the ball. But definitely, Gomez put us in a bad spot. Around seven minutes in there. I wouldn't have necessarily brought off Gomez, but if we were thinking about bringing off Trent, I would have slid Gomez off to the right and then brought on Konate as opposed to bringing Milner in. Milner's been playing basically every match, and again, he's not our most fleet of foot player. And almost immediately as he came onto the pitch, he got dribble passed by Nyanto, and they set off on a counter attack from a throw-in. So we were chasing the match at that point. We needed all 3 points, and to bring Milner on, I think, is more of a defensive substitution to do. And in my rationale, instead we should have brought on someone to put the ball in the net, perhaps Carvalho on for Firmino, or even Ox on for Trent AlexanderArnold in that case.
I think one of the big things that I grapple with personally is my expectations with this team versus my constant saying this team needs improvement. Like the top end is still very strong in a lot of positions, but if I'm beating the drum of we need 3 players in January, we should have signed 3 or 4 players last 2 windows, how can I also be saying this team should be contending for the Premier League if it's in such dire need? Keep getting your comments in, your takeaways. We'll dig into those in a second. Louis, in the infinite positivity, this is what I'm clinging to right now. I want to get your guys' takeaways. Like, is this the last beacon of hope in the season? If something bad happens in the knockouts, are things truly done? Or does anyone have any pessimism for the Champions League? Because I'm wildly optimistic. I'm probably deludedly so.
You never know, because I thought last season our sort of run into the final was fairly easy. Like, even if we were to play them teams now, I feel like we'd still manage to beat them. So anything could happen. Obviously, we've got the January transfer window as well to look forward to. So hopefully we can sign a few players and get it all fixed up.
Yeah, the Man City game showed that we can show up to like a one-off match. So especially knockout stage at Anfield, the fans show up for that. I think if anything, we have a chance in the cups. As we take them seriously, obviously, we're going to take the Champions League seriously. I think there's maybe 2-3 teams that are better than us in the Champions League, but we showed we can beat City at Anfield, and that'd be my unfortunate picks for winning the Champions League, but we beat them. So I think in a tournament like that, we can beat anyone. It's hard to be optimistic or completely optimistic with the team at the moment, but I don't know, it's far cry from chuck everything in the bin, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think as far as Champions League is concerned, since we do have the World Cup break there, we're not picking that up until the new year. And as Anthony mentioned there, he's hoping, as well as all of us here, that Liverpool have a couple of moves lined up for January already. The evidence is right there for everyone to see that this club needs a refresh, and we can't wait till summer because at that point everyone's shopping. Currently some teams are already out of it or looking to sell to kind of recoup and get in the position to make moves in the summer. So perhaps we can capitalize on those teams. But definitely this squad needs a couple of additions to even contend for top 4 at this point. We're just dropping way too many points in the Premier League. And to contend for the Champions League as well, we need a couple of at least players to return or a couple of new additions.
Let's dig into some of the comments here. Jonathan saying, too old of a midfield. I agree. Naby Keita needs to go, always injured. Why is Naby catching a stray? He was nor even his preseason isn't even going to happen until December, according to Jurgen. I mean, I don't know. My boy Naby catching a little bit of a stray right there. Interesting from Anissa here. I don't want to get your guys' takeaways. We kind of view the World Cup as a break that we will come out of in a positive lens. Is it? I mean, it's probably a yes, an easy yes. Could it get worse after the World Cup? I think it probably could. So I don't know if the players are going to be able to just instantly bounce back after the World Cup. That's a very interesting perspective. There, Napoli probably look, considering how well they played against us in that first match and how well they're playing in general. I hope we kind of just play Nunez and hope he scores some Champions League goals under the lights and see what happens there. Actually, before I keep moving on, I love Darwin so much. What are our takeaways in his performance today? Because he had a handful of very, very good opportunities that he didn't convert. Drew, I'll kind of just toss it to you first. Did you have any glaring, I guess, perspectives on Darwin's performance today?
He needed to finish at least 2 of those chances. I think he passed up a few chances too. I remember him doing a dummy to Robertson on the overlap, and I'm kind of like, you're the striker. I've never you can count how many goals Robertson scored on one hand, but at the same time, he gets into good positions. Like, I don't want to be too critical of him at this stage. Like, he needs to just score and get his confidence up, but you don't these are the game. It just sucks that we have to rely on him this much. Like, we're talking about how we needed him back in the team, that besides Salah, there's no one else in there really scoring goals. And it sucks that at this is where we are, where we need to rely on him that much. Like, Diaz out and Jota out is huge, because I honestly think Jota in our side makes it a lot easier for Nunez to adapt and come in and not have all that pressure. We're just struggling with options. But as far as his performance today, there were bright moments. He got into the right positions, but he needed to have finished at least 1 or 2 of his chances.
Anthony, are you disagreeing or agreeing with the scraps remark there?
I'm agreeing. I think that I was always thinking, what's the point of signing such a huge, big money signing if you can't sort of play to the best of his abilities? And obviously Trent's not really been on it this season. Robertson, he's turned up a lot more recently, to be fair to him, but I just feel like he's not getting the proper service that he needs. You look at what's behind him. It's Milner, Harvey Elliott. Elliott's not even got an assist for 30 matches for us, or 20 plus matches. Then you got James Milner coming on right back. Like, where's the proper service? That's why I think someone was saying, like, shove him in that Man City team and he gets as many as Haaland. I don't think he gets as many as Haaland, but I think he definitely gets probably double what he's already on at Liverpool. But I just feel like that's why you need to make signings, man. It feels like common sense. But you know what, Jack? As much as everyone hates him, Keita's going to come back. He'll be racking up the assists, and Nunez will be banging in the goals.
There was another Keita stray that I wanted to highlight. Just Keita's a waste of no use. I mean, he's not wrong. He was of no use for this match because he wasn't fit. The discussion entirely there. Look, Milner. Okay, Milner is really tough for me because he's obviously a great guy, real nice fella, and he's got oogles of experience. On the NBC broadcast, it was pulled up that he made his debut with Leeds in 2002. I don't even mean to age anybody here. I was born in 2001. That means his Premier League career has been going on for 1 year less than I've been alive. So that man, I mean, credit to him for his longevity of his career, shouldn't be playing right now. And I don't think we really need to kind of dig too deep into why he shouldn't be playing. He's got his moments. All these players are professional footballers. They have their moments, but the issue is they're being forced to make them too often. Harvey's too young to be being thrust into the side so young. Henderson, not too old. I think he's just, him and Fabinho are victim of overuse and being put in bad spots. I want to dig into some other comments here on Jurgen himself. So there's a good comment that I wanted to bring in from Louis. So there's actually in our WhatsApp stream group chat, there has been a fiery discussion about the long-term future of Jurgen Klopp. I think this is a pretty fair perspective. Like, if the Premier League season is mostly done and we're kind of just hoping for a nice cup run, I don't think there's a better alternative to Klopp. I just want to pose the question. Again, don't kill me. Jurgen Klopp, should he be on the hot seat? Is anybody Jurgen Klopp out?
No. Vehemently, no.
No. Anthony, you seem like a big Jurgen Klopp out guy. That's what I'm going to say.
I'm not big Jurgen Klopp out, but I'm leaning towards that side a lot more recent, especially this season. I think it's a very common theme. His mistakes are not, it's costing us, and it's not to say he's not done a good job. Like, I obviously feel like sort of emotion towards him. Not I don't feel emotion towards him. You know what I mean? But like sentiment, that's the word. But I just feel like we're just seeing a common theme of his mistakes, where it's like, firstly, substitutions, and it's not dipping into the transfer market. I know FSG is a big problem. Like, I've admittedly said that they need to go as well, but he's still at fault, and his team selections this season have been really, really poor, and it's cost us games. And we're going to look back, and everyone can say, "Oh, this is the top team." Yeah, it's okay because 10 years ago we had Hodgson, but this is the category we're in now. I think this is our worst start to season ever, or like for the last 10 years. So something's got to change, whether it's Klopp or the owners. I feel like the owners are the biggest issue, and then it's Klopp, and then it's the players. But obviously, that's whatever you lot guys think.
Yeah, no, Drew, I'll let you actually jump in on that. I think you wanted to have your say as well.
Yeah, I'm definitely not Klopp out. I'm curious. I'm curious if this stat is still true, because this came into play when FSG picked up Klopp. I remember reading a New York Times article about it where they analyzed our statistics department and how we purchase players, but how we also looked at Klopp. And it's talking about his time at Dortmund, that terrible season where I think he left when they were in 15th or something like that. They did like the analysis of all the performances and the expected goals and like the wins like from that. It was almost miraculously said that everything that could have went wrong in terms of chances and expected goals not going in. And it was that kind of basis where they called Klopp and were like, hey, we actually believe you like did really well that season. The numbers just didn't reflect the actual performances. I'm curious if there's a bit of that where it just seems like we're in a terrible rut. But you look at today's game, like everyone's saying, we had the chances to score, we just didn't score. And that sucks. Like at the end of the day, that's all that matters. But at that point, I don't throw Klopp under the bus. I think as a leader, there's no one I'd want more in the locker room, bringing people together. And he's left Dortmund under his own steam. Like if he thinks it's time to leave, then he'll make that decision. If he's still got fight, then I fully back him to get things going. When we've needed the transfers, not saying we've been ideal and we've had amazing transfer windows, especially lately, but when we needed Van Dijk, we went and got him. When we needed a better keeper, we got Allison. Like it seems to be that we kind of wait to the last second when we actually really need someone of that big impact, and then we dip into the market. I hate that that's the case. We should be proactive, not reactive. But this is definitely a time where I think in January, FSG will have to open their pocketbooks and give Klopp money to spend, because it's obvious to everyone that we need reinforcements. But that's why I'm not in the Klopp out wagon, because I think there's been a lot of things that's gone up against us. It's not excuses. Again, we shouldn't be reactive. We should have been proactive. We should have been ahead of all this. But the reality of the situation is we weren't, and we do need to react. And at this moment, I fully back Klopp, and I expect us to turn things around. If we get top four at the end of the season, make runs in one or two of the cups, Champions League especially, I would find that a success out of where we are in the season. So Klopp in for me.
Yeah, and keep on getting your comments in, kind of with your takeaways, what you want, what should have been different about today, what should be different in the future. I think for me to kind of just, put myself in the not Jurgen Klopp out brigade, is the fact that if you are, and I'll say this to somebody who maybe believes that Jurgen Klopp should go, or maybe it's time for him to walk or whatever reason, you need to ask yourself what you want from the club. Do you want a Thomas Tuchel to come in and do a Chelsea 2021 push where he takes advantage of a very talented squad in a lot of spots, takes advantage of some bit of luck, drives us to a few cup competitions this year, and then questionable long-term building? We saw what happened kind of with his fallout at Chelsea, disagreements with the ownership group. If FSG is not leaving, which kind of hard to imagine them leaving, I'm not going to lie, because they own the club. Like it's not like a manager where you can kind of pressure him into being sacked. Like they are the top. They make all the decisions. Like no one, like God himself would have to come and pluck them out and say, you are no longer owning this club. So to me, it's like, if you want someone to build something new, now is not the moment for that to be happening. Like this is not when you want to have a change in mentality and direction of the club. You want that to happen during the summer when a lot of players are going to move on, when you're going to be able to make a big cultural shift. Doing any change from Jurgen Klopp right now, to me would be, it cannot enter the thought process of FSG. Fundamentally, it cannot. And it shouldn't enter the thought process of fans, because I don't think Thomas Tuchel or Zinedine Zidane or Pochettino, I think he's still an option out there, I don't think any of those guys are more capable of leading us to a cup run than Jurgen Klopp is. So what's the point of moving him on? I go back to that comment from Louis earlier. I think it's tough to imagine anything different, but at the same time, this is a very talented group, and they are underperforming in a lot of spots. And so you can't be also, this is kind of almost disputing everything I just said. You have to recognize that there is room for Jurgen Klopp to improve. And if you can't recognize that fact, then you're just kind of treating him as some sort of unmistakable godlike person. And he's not that. He'll make mistakes all the time.
Jack, yeah, of course, I wouldn't say Klopp is infallible. As I commented earlier on the stream there, I felt his decision to bring Milner on wasn't the correct one there. But what I think we kind of have to judge Klopp is not just on these past 3 months, but since he's been here, and what type of club do we want? Do we want a guy we're going to kick out as soon as he has a bad stretch there? And it's not really all his fault, because again, just take a look at the number of injured players that we've had throughout this season. I believe 19 players have missed a match due to injury for one reason or another, leaving only around 10 players who haven't missed a match due to injury on the squad. I think for those who are Klopp out, I think if he was provided with, $200 million to go ahead and purchase what he wants out there on the market, we would see a vastly improved and different team here. I think he's kind of caught in limbo in between trying to shift tactics-wise as far as how we attack and set up, and also shifting out some of those players who have been here for the past 5 or 6 years during this run. And as we've seen, without investment and without reinvigoration, these players are bound to just, their levels are bound to drop. And the average age of our starters has gone up around 4 years from, 2018, 2019, when we made that CL run. And I just think we need reinvestment. I think FSG fumbled the ball in not, putting the money up, because I think if they had, we really would have, probably snagged another PL title in this time. And we kind of wasted some of the prime years of these spectacular players that we have in Salah, Alisson, Virgil van Dijk, etc., where we could have definitely done a lot more with a little bit more investment. I know their initial outlay in purchasing the club was at a certain level, and the club has just exponentially gone up in valuation. And as far as the ownership, I'm very content with the vast majority of what they've done. The reinvigoration as far as Anfield is concerned, the building of the new training facilities, everything is top level. But again, if you want to really go for it and maximize your investment, I think they needed to put a couple of more dollars in there.
Yeah. And I think the most frustrating part for me about the ownership and their decision making in the transfer window is that we need a lot of money now, because we didn't do it in the past. We could have spread out one player a window for the last 3 or 4 windows, and we would be A-okay right now. Think about instead of kind of lasering in on Tchouaméni, sign Bruno Guimaraes when he goes to Newcastle. Bring him in the January window. Diaz, I guess, was also brought in, so maybe there's the sign one player then. Diaz was a great signing. Konate was a good signing when he was made, but if you're able to make a guy like him 6 months earlier, potentially could have been a bit better there. And I think the biggest mistake that we're seeing now, and the argument always was after the 1920 window, win the Premier League or win the Champions League, and then kind of just go into the next season in the Prem. You obviously win the Premier League, so that immediate season there was no failure. But the issue was you then push the signings that need to be made to rotate a team another 6 months, another year later. And so they've been about 6 months to a year behind ever since that decision to sign just Sepp Vandenberg and was Harvey signed in that window? I forget if there were any actual signings made in that window.
Well.
Adrian won us a Super Cup. He won us a Super Cup.
It cost us the CL against Atletico.
Yeah, that does seem like of equal importance to the club. Look, it's really tough because and again, I think Drew, you mentioned it. They're now being reactive in the market, and anyone who we go to try and sign somebody from, they know that we need a few midfielders desperately. You look at Benfica. If we try and sign Enzo Fernandez from them, they're gonna be saying, "Oh, okay, 80 million pounds, 80 million euros, pay up. You already paid us a boatload for Darwin Nunez. You're capable of that. Time to do it again." Because we're not in a position of strength. We've lost that. Same thing if Moises Caicedo. We saw the rumor after the match today. A very good performance against Chelsea. £85 million is what he would cost to get him out of Brighton because they hold all the cards. Very rarely are you going to be in a dominant position as a buying team, but you could be in a position where you're of level playing field versus we have lost all that leverage. And so now we're going to be, I can just see the spin already. We're going to have to pay extra money for whoever it may be. And then we won't have the money to sign another player in January. It'll be 1 or 2 signings, but I don't know. I kind of want to turn it into the immediate future. Napoli. Rigo, I'll go to you first with this. What changes to the 11 would you like to see? What things do you want to see differently as we kind of have that final match in the group stage of the Champions League?
Switch on everyone who can possibly take some minutes. At this point, you kind of just give everybody a rest as much as you can. I think Stefan Bastecic, he got a run out midweek. I think he definitely should start. I would have liked him to come on today as well. I know he's young, but I think he does offer something to the club. Just like, I know a lot of Curtis haters are on the comments here, but I think he offers something as well to the club. Perhaps Ox can offer some minutes also. Defensively, unfortunately, we still have a few injuries there. So Virgil van Dijk, I'm sure he's going to start. So it's who's he being partnered with. I think Gomez at this point does need a rest. He's played a lot of matches for these past couple of weeks, and I think that's might be leading to a couple of errors in decision making there, as we saw today. But I definitely want to see a lot of turnover and get some of these young guys minutes as much as possible, just for the simple fact that we need all 3 points again against Spurs at the weekend. And if we don't, I think we really can kiss the PL, and it'll be a fight to get top 4.
Anthony, for you, any immediate changes to the 11, to Klopp's decision-making strategies, anything you want to see kind of in the next 2-3 matches before the World Cup kind of hits us in about 3 weeks now?
I do. I want to see Milner to stop coming onto the pitch for Alexander-Arnold, because he's not a right back and he's not better than Trent. Honestly, Konate more in that starting 11, and obviously Keita's coming back, so I'll start him as well more often. But I don't know, man, because it's not really like a personnel thing. It's just like they're just not performing. It seems like a sort of mentality thing, like they're all burnt out. Because Fabinho as well, although I didn't think he was that bad today. I thought he was actually pretty decent, but there was one error where it's just too easy to get past him. And yeah, I think the midfield is obviously really awful at the moment, and same with the defense. But they just need to somehow get over it. Like it's not even about personnel anymore. It's just down to themselves, to be honest. So. Yeah, obviously a few changes, and obviously Klopp needs to stop with these silly substitutions. But I feel like it's easier to turn it around than to just sort of admit defeat, just because we know the quality of these players already.
I wonder if Louis still in the comments, because I think he would appreciate this comment I'm about to make. I was right in the past. People slated me for it about Fabinho. I think it was right before the season when I kind of just said, he's. I think what the quote I said was the most replaceable midfielder we had. Because what I was afraid of was just the physical edge was kind of lost on him. And I think what people were immediately mad about is like, we don't have anybody else like him. And that was my problem. My problem was there was nobody else like him in the 11. So when you need someone to break up play in the midfield, it's Fabinho. And if it's not him, it's nobody. So he's got to pull all those roles by himself. We should have signed an Ibrahim Sangare. I don't even know a great alternative to him that we kind of were linked to. Ruben Neves would be a solid guy as well. Like guys that... Go ahead, Rigo.
What a goal today. I don't know if you caught that today from
Yes.
Neves. Holy smokes.
And he has that in his locker. And he's a guy who's a destroyer. And Fabinho has that in his locker as well. He's about City in the title-winning season. He can smash him in. But Neves does him with consistency. He takes free kicks for them, if I'm not mistaken. So, like, the issue I had with Fabinho was he's a great player. He's a world-class player when he's fit, when he's rotated. And I think we saw it with Robertson today, who was, I think, a rare positive in this team, where he was pretty energetic. He was getting at players. He was a nice threat on the left-hand side. He assisted Salah for the goal. But the issue was, in the past, he had been a bit off of it. And then you brought in Kostas for a few weeks. And then people were saying Kostas is better. And then Robertson came back in and reasserted himself because he had gotten a rest. He had had someone pushing him. If we did the same thing with every player, we'd be great. And that's my biggest issue, I think, with our transfer recruitment, is that we are not like City in terms of financial sense, but also in terms of a playing style sense. They would be better suited to have our budget than we would to have theirs, because system grinds players out. We press a ton. It's such an energy and emotionally intensive system on your body and your mind, compared to City's, which is much more about positioning and passing, and it's much more. You can do that for a lot longer than you can do our system. So we need to be rotating a lot more than they do, but they do it more than us. That's why they've had such a great 4 titles out of 5 years.
It's nice when you could spend $100 million on a guy and not even use him barely,
Exactly,
and not blink.
No, I mean, if Liverpool could pull the trigger on guys like that, like Coutinho would still be at the club. They'd have so many different things that would be they'd be able to do so many more things. So I don't want to get into a big, transfer debate discussion here. Drew, I'll let you get your say in terms of immediate changes or things that you'd like to see a bit differently in the next few matches.
I'd like to see some of our injured players get more minutes against Napoli. I think Konate should get some time on the field. As much as I don't think Ox is someone we need to be relying on, I think getting him in the team to get him some minutes to see if he does have anything offered. For me, actually, when you I'll speak up for this because I think Milner had a fantastic game against Man City, and I think that's what's frustrating with this team. You can pick single players out for having poor performances one week and then brilliant the next week. I just don't think there's just something rotten in the team at the moment. I thought Milner was brought on so he could free up Robertson because Robertson was the informed fullback on the game, but still we got burned on the back end on Milner's side, so that didn't work out. But I don't want to throw him under the bus when he had a great game against City, and we shouldn't be using him as much as we have. I think that just speaks to where we are in the defensive crisis, the midfield crisis, everything in that state. But for the Napoli game, I think we need to get a little bit of rotation in. I'd like to keep Nunez in the team, see if he can score a goal. I'm sure Salah will probably play. Maybe if Fabio Carvalho in. Bishetic. I think Matt Phillipson for center back, maybe push Gomez to right. I don't know, just give Trent a rest. Trent has been off it. I don't know. It's honestly, I think there needs to be some changes and then some not changes. I think getting minutes for players like Konate in for center back. I think just getting minutes in for those players who are a bit on the fringes need some minutes in their legs. Simicas, give some players a rest because I think Spurs is the big game. Riga said it. If we lose to Spurs, then that's going to make top 4 really hard for us. I think the saving grace is that teams are pretty much choking for 4th place, so that kind of leaves us with a hint of light at the end of the tunnel if we can take advantage of that. But that's where I think I don't want to throw too much grief on any one player because it doesn't seem like it's I think Rigo and Anthony mentioned it before when Van Dijk was out that one season, it was easy to spot why we were doing poorly. It's not easy to spot now, and I think that's where people are throwing the blame on at Klopp. But that's where I go back to the XG stats, at least from earlier in the season. I don't know what they are now, but we should be playing better than we are. It's just been terrible. And I think Kartik said in the stats, we're going from believers to doubters now in the fan base, and it's really sad to see. I think that needs to change. I think we either need to back Klopp as a whole and back the team and get behind them, or we're just creating a sense of negativity around the club. And I think that was literally what Klopp said in his first press conference was we need to change from doubters to believers. And I think that was an understated quote from him that really changed how we viewed the club. And it does seem like we're going from believers to doubters now. And I hate to see that. So, that's why I say we kind of need to lick our wounds and get to the break and try to sort something out. But as far as Napoli, as far as I'm concerned, it's a dead rubber game. So make some changes. Give Nunez a free chance to get some goals, get some confidence up. But other than that, I'm not placing too much emphasis on the Napoli game. We're already through to the knockout round, so the Tottenham game matters more.
I do agree with that indeed. I'm gonna get my last thoughts in. I'll let you guys have one last say before we get out of here. There was a shout here from Kenpachi about should Fabinho start as a fullback, and I think we saw it. I think was it you, Anthony, who mentioned the one spot where he was okay today, but on the near side he kind of got just burnt way too easily. Just kind of was played right past. I don't think he would benefit from playing as a right back like he did at Monaco because his issue is one-on-one duels and just being beaten by players. So if he's going one-on-one with wingers, I don't like that prospect. I think he will be absolutely toasted every single time. He needs someone to replace him. He need not replace him fully in terms of Liverpool, just someone else who can do that job. So he can take a few weeks off where he's being forced to work his way back into the 11. He would benefit from that. We would benefit from that. Everyone would benefit from that. At the end of the day, though, my last thought, and I'll let you guys get yours in, is we have had issues with injuries, the emotions from last year. Fundamentally, this was a Leeds team in a terrible vein of form. We were at home against a team in the relegation zone with a great 11. There are flaws. There are flaws. It's not perfect. It's still a very strong side. Should not have lost this match. I mean, it is an obvious statement, but I think sometimes we in a push to have such extremes, like Liverpool is going to have a terrible season, Jurgen Klopp needs to go, we kind of jump past the fact that this was a match we should not have lost. We should not have lost to Nottingham Forest. So there is, I mean, every player should look at themselves in the face at the end of the night. And I don't think they're going to be very proud of what they put out today. I don't think they're bad players at the root of it. And I think things need to change a little bit. I think they will change a little bit, but that's kind of where I'm at after that match. Rigo, I'll let you get your final thoughts on this match, the club, life in general.
Life in general, I'm looking forward to a nice dinner. Take my mind off this match. But looking backwards on the match we just saw and forwards, I think we're suffering again just from running these players down. Three games in a week and having to rely on these players to make that effort for 90 minutes. Salah played full 90s pretty much this entire week, along with a few other players there. And without having quality to bring off the bench, they even provide Klopp with an option. It's just bound to catch up with us, and we're seeing the effects now this season. What started off with so much promise after that win against Man City in the Community Shield has quickly faded away, and right now we're sitting there at 9th place with 16 points, 4-4-4. First loss at Anfield since forever, and in VVD's entire career. It's a pretty low point now. But again, this is Liverpool. We're in it until the end, and again, we got to ride this storm out until we come through on the other side of it. So any doubters there need to, think on it again and just remember who the character of this club is and who's leading us. And I think, again, with reinforcements and the ability to interchange his players, I think we'll be back where we belong.
Anthony, your final takeaways and final thoughts from today's stream.
As much as Rigo and Drew are on the optimistic side, I appreciate all your words. I just I do feel like I'm on the doubters at the moment, and I feel like there's sort of reason to be a doubter at the moment. Obviously, in the long term, I'm sure we're going to bounce back. At the end of the season, I'm sure we'll somehow make it into the top 4 again. Like we've been in worse positions even a couple of seasons ago, so I'm hopeful of that. But at the same time, I just feel like I'm just not seeing like the future in the long term at the moment, and I do feel like that's down to Klopp, and I don't want to be Klopp out, but I'm driving towards that way. Let's put it that way. But thoughts on today's match wasn't great. We deserved to lose, and hopefully Napoli. I feel like we'll probably lose that, but it don't really matter. We're already through the Champions League next round. Tottenham, hopefully we can bounce back. You know what? Actually, it'll be typical Liverpool to lose against Leeds and beat Napoli, wouldn't it? So I wouldn't put it past just to get 3 points, but against them either.
Drew, final takeaways, final thoughts from today's stream.
I'd first say, there's no reason why you should be feeling happy after the game today. That's where I think for me, I try to separate emotions from decisions and overall beliefs. When the Leeds goal went in, I was absolutely heartbroken. I think I told you guys before the stream started, I was just shocked, just depressed. And, it took me a good 10 minutes to really compose myself. But I think that's kind of what we need to do here in general is feel however you want to feel. whatever emotions you're experiencing, valid. Like if you're angry, that's fair. If you're depressed, that's fair. All of that is fair. But we still need to get behind the team. I think Rigo said it too in his, where it's like when you're having games every 3 days, like it's hard to like pick like to dwell or pick yourself up out of the rough. Like it took Klopp, the majority of the second half of the season before he put Nat Phillips and Reece Williams in, and we somehow scraped together that 11-game streak to get us into the top 4 and actually finish third. I think that's where we're at, where it's like you gotta back the team to get through this. I think you pulled up the comment earlier, Jack, or Louis' comment, where it's like if this is a throwaway season, you don't get rid of Klopp. You have to back him. You have to get behind the team, and that's why I say we just need to lick our wounds to the break, because that's actually a blessing for us that we have that chance to regroup and regather and go forward, because we didn't have that in the year we had the center back crisis. We kind of just had to figure it out on the fly, and it's so hard to do that. That's why you see teams just crumble and fall, and because it just games keep coming, as Rigo said, in this season especially. So however you're feeling, valid. Depressed, angry, all of that, valid. Try to just process that and get behind the club at least to the end of the season, and then we can make more definitive judgments at that point. But yeah. I hate to see the club as doubters, so good. Just back the team. Maybe not believers, but back the team. Get to the break and see what we can do then, what Klopp can do.
It is a good point. This is an activity we choose to do for fun, and sometimes it preys on our emotions a bit more negatively at times. I think wherever you guys are feeling, I 100% agree, Drew. Make sure you, as a fan, are treating yourself well. If you're like Rigo, you're gonna have a nice big dinner. It's a tough result, but again, you can't control what happens with this football club. You can only just hope for the best and have your advice, your criticisms, your moments of support, whatever it may be. But I think end of the day, this is going to be very, very interesting to say the least, what happens over the next few weeks in terms of the Liverpool Football Club. And then we have a World Cup where we can kind of forget about everything for a few weeks and then watch some of the premier action. So you have a lot to look forward to, if nothing else, with the Liverpool season, to say the least. So that's going to do it for our stream here today. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in for our stream after Liverpool's 2-1 defeat to Leeds. For Rigo, Anthony, and Drew, I've been Jack for the LFC Transfer Room. We will catch you on our next video or stream. Make sure to subscribe and like today's video if you liked it. We'll catch you next time. Take care.